Well, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Colleagues. I could not be more thrilled today to introduce you to my guest, Miss Trish Quillen. Trish is a woman who I admire tremendously. I think we all have people in our lives that we really look up to and respect professionally, but when we look at them personally, that respect breaks down a little bit for their ethics or for the way they go about their business. And Trish couldn't be a better example of someone who has found success professionally and is just a shining example of how to lead with heart, how to care for your clients, how to care for her colleagues. She is someone who I admire tremendously. And if you enjoyed this conversation just half as much as I did, you're going to love it. Without further ado, I introduce you to Miss Trish Quillen. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Coffee with Colleagues. And I am thrilled to welcome to this call one of my dear friends within the industry. Her name is Trish Quillen. She's the most loving, kind, caring, passionate, professional person I've ever met. She's based out of Canada, and I'm so thrilled to have you on the call today, Trish. Trish, welcome to Coffee with Colleagues.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm blushing. That was a very sweet introduction. Thank you.
I thought long and hard about how to introduce you because there's so many things I could say, and I just figured I'd wing it from the heart because you're that kind of person that imbibes that feel good. I kind of call you the Canadian gangster, and I say that for two reasons. One, because I haven't met a Canadian that you just don't want to hug and love because you guys are so nice up in Canada, but you're kind of gangster. Like you're the person that like take somebody's money and they actually like feel good about it. Like, oh yeah, I'll give Trish my money 100%. That's so nice of her to steal from me. That's amazing. Not that you would ever steal from anybody, Trish. I'm not accusing you of that, but I just love your style and I love your vibe. In fact, when I joined ConferenceDirect years ago, this was in 2012, we sat and had dinner at the first APM that I was part of. And we just had such an amazing conversation. You were so genuine and so honest, and really, I can look back at the conversation as one of the points of my career when I look back and said, you gave me the confidence that I can make it in this model. And that was such I don't know if I've ever told you that, but it was a memory that sticks in my brain forever, that when I made that jump, there's a lot of, whenever you jump out of a hotel environment into something like this that's more entrepreneurial based, there's a little bit of nerves and did I make the right decision? And that conversation I have with you just helped really reassure me that I had made the right decision because of your quiet confidence in your ability. I saw you getting it done, and I said, if Trish can do it, that gave me the confidence that I could do it too. So I owe you that thanks.
I remember that night, and that was I just had such a good visit with you, and there was no doubt in my mind you were going to be the successful businessman that you have become. So without a doubt, you took it by storm. Good for you.
You're a sweetheart. Thank you for saying that. So I've talked enough about you, but why don't you talk a little bit about yourself? Who is Trish Quillen? And give me just, I guess almost from a personal side of things, we can get into business, which we will, of course, but personally, who's Trish?
Oh, man. It's funny. You don't often reflect on who you are, and I need to do that more often. But I would say I'm a very happy, positive person. I love to wake up every morning and put a smile on my face and take on the day and appreciate everything that I have in my life. And I think even more so now when going through what we've just gone through this last year, I really appreciate that quality within me, is that I am not going to get derailed. I am going to find happiness in the moment I live today. So yeah, I appreciate those qualities about me, but certainly, I have to learn to have these work-life balance in our life. I find that family is extremely important to me, and through going through what we've just done this last year, I appreciate my family even more and appreciate that I've invested the time this last year into growing those relationships.
Well, you're not the only one that appreciates those positive qualities about you, Trish. That's for sure. Talk to me a little bit about that, though, as we face, our industry. For those who don't know, we work in hospitality. We plan meetings and events for our clients. obviously with the pandemic, things have been turned upside down. What have you shifted from a personal standpoint to, or have your values shifted at all over the last year? Have you started to look at things differently? You mentioned family. What are some of the things you've been challenged with as the pandemic hit and our business went through a lot of twists and turns?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if our business got derailed in many regards, and I realized where I had weaknesses and did not protect myself from a business perspective. But like in the beginning with all my relationships with my clients, I said, I'm going to be there through the thick and thin. And they couldn't have felt that more than this last year. And I, was true to my word. I have been there. And if anything, like I already had good relationships with my clients, but this has only strengthened it even that much more. So I wanted to make sure I didn't lose sight of that. I mean, every day we feel like, okay, we're kind of working for free. But in many regards, my clients are like, no, we do not want you to be working for free. We understand the model had a little bit of a breakdown, but we really appreciate and value everything you've done for us. So that has really hit my heart. But I think it's really been eye-opening in terms of just relationships that you have when down, what we've just gone through is how strong is my personal relationship with my clients, my family, my friends. And so that has been certainly a highlight for sure.
I think a lot of times we use the word investing and we immediately think of money or finances and capital, but the investment in relationships, the investment of time and folks that we love, from a family member to our clients, I think sometimes those pay bigger benefits, when we can learn how to invest into a relationship that has nothing to do with money, that ultimately might pay off in money. If it's a client, obviously that has financial implications there, but it's these times where you have an opportunity to shift your investment away from a financial focus and into a more heartfelt focus, something that really invests in building an emotional bank with somebody, I think could be worth more than any kind of price tag you can put on a client or any kind of relationship you have.
It is so true. And it has always been what leads me anyways, at the end of the day, is the relationships with my clients, my family. It truly is the most important. And the financial side of it just comes after the fact.
Yeah.
Even through this time, I mean, my clients, I didn't necessarily reach out and ask for referrals before. Now I'm going, okay, I've got time, and you've gone through this experience that would be really appreciative. And in some case, they just took the initiative and did that. So the financial piece of it is coming. It will come, and they just go, we really appreciate all you've done. How can we help you and give back? So I think for me, it's certainly leading by love and care and a genuine, concern and appreciation for my clients and looking out for their interests. So that's kind of what I'm choosing to put one foot in front of the other and make sure that's my priority.
Fantastic. You talked a little bit about your why. You're driven by your family and the relationships. Tell me about your path to CD. I know you came from a hotel background, working in resorts up in Canada. Tell me about what made you jump to a more entrepreneurial model. Why did you leave the hotel world behind, or I shouldn't say the hotel world, the hotel side of this business behind, to work in a different avenue?
It was a bit nerve-wracking, but at the time, and it really, I don't know if you know this, it really wasn't hotels. I didn't have a hotel background. It was within the ski resort, but I was in weddings. And so that's where I dealt with group business. So truly, I am one of the very few with ConferenceDirect that didn't work in a hotel and have that experience. So for me to make this leap, I was kind of like, okay, what am I doing? I had a huge learning curve. And I remember meeting with Brian Ritchie, and he's like, very hesitant to bring me on because, as a company, as a culture, it's just so sophisticated, but also the experience level is so vast that they protect that. And I really appreciated it. It made me want ConferenceDirect even more, that you are only bringing on top quality people. So that's the company I want to be with. And so I convinced him that I'm really good at what I do. So he said, okay, I'll give you a shot. Come on to ConferenceDirect. So I really had a huge learning curve. But what initially drew me was the fact that, hey, I have unlimited upside. If I put the effort in, I care for my clients like I did in my previous job, but have a cap commission, a salary with no potential, finances that could potentially grow and support, my long-term goals. Then why am I doing that for another company if I can do it for myself? And so that was huge for me to make this leap over, but it really was, I didn't walk into this business with a Rolodex full of people I could contact and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and I'd love to support you. So that's why I say, hey, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I've grown a very successful business, and no looking back. It has been the best transition I could have made.
You know, I think almost counterintuitively, sometimes the people who are going to be or have all the resume and all the pedigree for success sometimes rest on their laurels for that. And folks who have a chip on their shoulder with something to prove, sometimes that can be a huge driving factor. Would you agree? And it sounds like that's your case right here. Like you came in with something to prove, that you wanted to show that that you would be successful in this model. Was that something that drove you to find your success, that you weren't going to be held down?
100%. I was living, previous to joining ConferenceDirect, I was living in a tiny little town in the Canadian Rockies, 5,000 people. And I thought, I'm going to move to the big city, Vancouver, right downtown, and I'm going to pay a fortune in rent, and I'm going to start with ConferenceDirect and have no income. That itself will put a fire under your butt and make you.
Sure.
But at the same time, I will never not be a success. I love goals. I love achieving them. I celebrate my successes. So to me, I was like, I just need to invest the time. Once I've got the time down, I know it will all fall into place. The confidence was there. But I really took the initiative, and it's interesting you say, like, I wasn't, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but jaded by, experience or whatever it may be. I walked into this with no experience, and I reached out to a local hotel and I said, look, like, can I meet with your revenue manager, the GM, conference services, sales manager? And I want to know from their perspective, working with a third party like ConferenceDirect, what do you appreciate? What do you value? What will you look for when I send an RFP in? And I was so impressed. They said, no one has ever asked us that, to take a genuine care, to really go and put yourself in the controller's position and go, hey, what is it you're looking for? So they invited me to the hotel, come and stay for 2 days, and he set up meetings for 2 solid days. And that was part of my growth. And, my learning curve was asking all those very pointed questions, like, will this impact my clients in a negative way by my involvement? And understanding absolutely not. They appreciate, our position, but here's why they appreciate our position and why it's beneficial for the client. So that was huge for me, and it set me up right for success from the beginning, but it required a lot of work. Like, there's no doubt I had a big learning curve, but I just invested in myself, and rest is history.
That blows my mind a little bit, because I think not only does it require a lot of work, it requires a lot of humility. I think the ability for you to walk into a hotel, and perhaps it was born out of a genuine ignorance of how the process worked. I think that could be a detriment to us when we come in with experience, that we're not taking a childlike view of the entire process and going back. I don't know if you ever watched the show Matlock, where he just kind of he was the smartest guy in the room, but he played dumb for everybody and would just ask silly questions. As you're telling me this, it's like a light bulb is going off in my head. How better served will we be, not only in building relationships, but in improving our value, just by having that childlike curiosity of how things work, not only to learn something, but just to prove to those who you're talking with that you genuinely care about the process. That's brilliant for me. I'm getting ideas of people I'm going to call after this call right here and play stupid. Like, wait, how does this work really? How do you, from your perspective, what do I need to know? I love that.
You know what was really cool about it, though, is I think from the hotel side, they're like, we want to help you out because you genuinely care about us too. Like, we would rather put someone in your hands when this is a partnership. And they were referring clients into me. So I was actually getting clients from that experience. It was amazing.
There's a Canadian gangster coming out again. I love it. You're just the unassuming, ruthless, like how you get business. I don't say ruthless in a negative way. That's a horrible adjective to use, but you're just you're so unassumingly aggressive getting that business. I love it. It's fantastic. But let me say this too, because you are one of the people that impresses me the most, that when you hear no, you turn that no around in some of the most creative ways. Some of the stories I've heard you share about how you've gotten to that yes, just always inspirational to me. I love how you're like a dog with a bone sometimes. It's like, you're not going to get me off this. And no matter how many times you tell me no, I know you're coming back, I'm coming back for you and you're going to eventually want my services. Tell me more about that, or maybe even share a story or just thoughts about how a no can lead to a yes. How determined do you get when you hear that no?
You know, it's interesting. My approach initially, I'll give you one example. I'm certainly, you know, not a dog on a bone right away. And it's to me about a relationship. So that is really fundamentally what is important to me, is that they trust me to know that I am looking out for their best interest always. And when dealing with our partners, it is a partnership, and there's ways to bring everyone together collectively that is a win-win for everyone. So I think sometimes, you know, the clients that I have, you know, brought on board have initially said, we just appreciated your approach because you weren't aggressive. I think back to one of my, this was years ago, one of my first clients, I guess, corporate client, huge corporate client. We were on a bus going to a Cirque du Soleil locally here. And I looked at her and she had the most beautiful skin. I was like, oh my goodness, I love your skin. We sat together for 5 minutes. That was it. It was not sales. Hey, you know, what can I do? Oh, you're with this company. Great. This is what I do. And we just kept it very personal. And I said, I would love to go for lunch with you. We should touch base in a few weeks or so. She ends up calling me first. And she said, you know, Trish, you know, when you're standing in the shower and the water's hitting you and you get lost in thought? And I was like, yeah, okay. And she's like, you popped into my mind. And I was like, what? I started laughing. I was like, oh boy, here we go. So she said, yeah, I would like to start working with a third party, but everyone has called and solicited my business. And you did not. You were just, it was just such a joy to be around you. We had such a great conversation. I loved your energy, and it made me want to call you out of everyone. So we ended up connecting. Long story short, I've worked with them to this day. It's been amazing. But, you know, you take the flip side of a client that says, you know, no, but we are definitely not interested. Well, why is that? I mean, that's an easy shutdown for all of us to go, okay, you know, I tried, it didn't work out. But there's got to be a reason that you are saying no. Have you had a bad experience? Have you ever gone through this experience? Help me understand what your impression is of a third party, or me personally, or my abilities, and what, you know, what's the hang up. And so once you kind of dig a little deeper and they're willing to disclose, and I most recently in the last year had a client come on very aggressive, was like, not interested. We have our own buying power. We keep everything internal, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of his aggressive response, he's like, I apologize. He actually apologized to me for being so aggressive. I was like, no, stop right there. I actually really appreciate that you are expressing yourself in this way, because it's really showing me and giving me the talking points that to address your concerns. And so I said, okay, well, now you need to sit right there, and I'm going to tell you why I think I would be an asset to your organization. And I only work with clients who see the value in what I do. And this is a two-way street. It's not me just taking on any client that comes my way, because there are so many out there that could utilize our service for sure. But it's finding the right client that fits with, you know, just your dynamic. And so long story short, with them, I've won them over, and they're now, working with me, and it's growing rapidly. So I'm pretty happy about that. So yes, a little bit of a dog on the bone, but not as
Trish, you just explained to me how you got a client to actually apologize to you for saying no to your services. I mean, if that doesn't sum you up, I don't know what does. That's a perfect example. It's like, I don't want to use you, and I'm so sorry. I really am so sorry I don't want to use you. That's perfect. That is so Trish. I love how you walk with that confidence. I heard something on a podcast recently that you're bringing to mind. You know, this person walks in, he actually was a Hollywood producer, and he says, I don't pitch people that I want them to work with me. I want to tell them what I'm giving them, and I'm going to show them that I'm the right fit by what I give. And if they latch on, that's great. And if they don't, that's great too. But I'm not going to sit here and try and sell them that they have to come work with me. It begs, you know, it kind of exudes desperation, as opposed to the quiet confidence of, this is what I have to offer. I know that I'd be good for you. If you agree, then we'll work together. And if not, and that almost is borderline arrogant, but I think it's a beautiful, quiet confidence of saying, this is what I have to offer. And if you don't appreciate it, I know someone will. Why don't you appreciate it? If that, you know, if you're having that conversation, that'll help me be better, at least be better for the next time around, of how I can better, you know, be better value for my clients? And maybe even going through that process, just like you explained, that person comes to the conclusion themselves that they really don't have a defense as to why they wouldn't use you. You end up winning them over simply by asking some deep, uncovering questions. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. And to be honest with you, I always encourage a client to just go through the experience. What do you have to lose? And I won't obligate you to see that contract or see that service through to fruition if it's not right for you. You can bow out at any point. Knock on wood, that hasn't happened yet. But to me, that's how much confidence I do have. I know I am an asset and they will see it. It's just, have a little bit of trust to go through a soft example of it. And then that has developed into very long-term clients. So,
particularly in our model, Trish, too, like our clients don't pay for our services by and large. They're paying for what we do. We get paid through the hotels who pay us a commission. For a client's perspective, it's a very low risk, high reward proposition that there's really not much to lose. Like you said, if they don't like us, get rid of us. And that's, thankfully it hasn't happened, but there's really not a huge risk if they do take a chance on using our services to see what we're like. So I love that approach of kind of the open-handed approach of saying, I'm not forcing my way in here. Give us a chance to work together. And if it suits you, then we have something to work on. We can develop this relationship further, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So crazy. We talked a little bit about this from a personal standpoint and ways you've invested in relationships. What has the pandemic forced you to do from a business side of things to reinvent? You had alluded to earlier that you were challenged to kind of shift a little bit, I guess, in your business. Tell me more about that. How did you reevaluate the way you were doing business before the pandemic, and how have you maybe sharpened some of your tools coming out of it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, when everything was going along tickety-boo, you're right. Our service doesn't cost the client anything. And that's really where the model had a bit of a breakdown when saying, okay, well, we get cancellations here and there, and we work with our clients through that. When a pandemic rolls in and it is your entire year and book of business is wiped right out completely, clients are coming now back and saying, okay, we can't move forward. And the hotels are saying, okay, you're not in force majeure. That's a lot of work and a lot of communication and negotiation with the hotels to try and mitigate your client's financial damage. So fortunately, I have such amazing clients that are like, we see the value in that. But so certainly that red flagged a gaping hole in my business, but at the same time, it's given me the opportunity to protect that. And, I have not had a client not agree to protect that in future moving forward. So that's been a focus for sure. But it also has made me, it's freed up a little bit of time, all the while it's taken a lot to negotiate through all these contracts again and shift the business moving forward. But reach out and ask for referrals. And referrals into clients that maybe, circumstances change. And when a client was maybe opposed to working with a third party, or maybe is currently working with a third party and they're just not fulfilling their needs or their wishes, or they're not seeing the service standard like ConferenceDirect provides, it's a perfect opportunity for us to walk in the door and say, how can I help you? You are in the thick of, a terrible experience trying to navigate waters you've never been in. We're doing this all day long. Like, we know how to navigate these waters. And so to provide a service when clients are struggling right now, and to that support, I have secured new business just starting off on what is a challenging time for them. So I'm growing that business absolutely through taking on new clients with struggles right now.
That's fantastic. So it brings to mind something too. I talk to folks asking them about their career options. There's been so many shifts and shifting within the hospitality industry. A lot of our friends in the hotel industry have been furloughed or let go. What do you say to folks who might consider this model as a future for them? I've gotten told pretty much flat out, you're crazy. Like, this is a dying model, that no one's going to do meetings anymore in the future. I firmly believe opposite, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are in our space. What would you say to someone who is contemplating career options right now? And whether this would even be something they would want to consider?
So when I joined, Jeremy, it was right after 2008, and corporations were canceling their conferences left, right, and center. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm joining a company, walking in the door when people are like, what are you talking about? We're not hosting a conference. We're canceling. Optically, it looks bad, or whatever it may be, the financial crisis. They're laying off people, so why would we run anything? And I'm like, oh, worst timing ever. It was the best time. It was the best time because unfortunately, planners were laid off. There was no conference for them to execute, and now it falls on a management desk. And when time comes back and they're ready to book this conference, they're going, I don't deal with this stuff. I don't know what to do. So perfect opportunity to walk in the door and develop that relationship and be there as an extension arm of the team and work with them. And to me, I look at this as no different than that time frame. Yes, business has flatlined, and now we know conferences are going to come back. Now is the time to walk in that door and be there for these people that are going to need help as they start to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I think I've heard it said before, and what you're saying reminds me of this fact, Trish. When business is really, really good, our clients rely on us to help kind of push back on the hotels and negotiate more favorable rates in terms, because hotels get very greedy when times are good. When times are bad, we're there to mitigate damages, and I think sometimes our value is even more. Right now, with the landscape completely leveled, and it doesn't look like anything we've seen before. Folks who know how to navigate through these times, folks who know how to add value and really navigate the scene on the hotel side, I think are going to be in more demand than ever. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Let me ask a follow-up question to that, though. When you were in 2008 starting, and people weren't planning meetings, and I'm sure you heard plenty of no's, how did you get in the door? Like, who were you talking to even provide opportunities for you? And how can that be a lesson now for 2021, as we're starting to see signs of recovery and uptick in meetings, even if ever so slightly? Who were you talking to now, and who are you targeting? And what kind of parallels can you draw from your experience when you first joined to now?
Oh, that's a good question. At the time when I was joining, it was an easy conversation with some of these companies that are like, yeah, my EA signed a conference for $1 million, and we were on the hook for, $700,000. And as an organization, we don't have $700,000 to pay a cancellation fee. And who's signing it? An executive assistant who is not anticipating they're going to cancel. So those people now are CFO, procurement, upper management, who have probably gone through now the thick of it, maybe mitigated some cancellation, maybe paid some cancellation, and who was responsible for those contracts? And could you have protected yourself more in this environment? And so to me, it will be, unfortunately, sometimes the planners will look at it like we're here to take their job. Not at all. We are here as an extension arm of them, but they're not usually the person you want to contact in times like this, because they just want to keep their position. And if you're coming in relinquishing some aspect of their job, maybe they're unneeded now. So certainly getting in procurement, CFO, management, and asking those questions. How did it roll out for you? How did you handle the contracts through this time? Absolutely. I mean, they'll very quickly say, oh, we had a very challenging time with this, we paid that. Perfect time for us to speak to that brand, our contracting, what we've done for other clients.
Fantastic advice. So, personal question, and something that I think many people have struggled with throughout the pandemic. I don't care what career you're in or what position you've been. There have been plenty of days where you just feel like giving up or throwing in the towel, or did I make the right, am I making the right decision now? How did you find your way through, perhaps, and give yourself pep talks where you got 15 cancellation calls within the span of 2 weeks or whatever? Where are those days, and how do you dig deep to reset, perhaps mentally, physically? What were some of the tips you would give for folks who are struggling and really want to throw in the towel?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, this pandemic, I'm the most positive person. Jump out of bed, bing, smile on my face, I'm ready to go. And I have had days where I'm like, oh, I'm in a funk, and that is not like me. And so to me, it has really shed a light and made me appreciate people truly with mental illness and how much they're struggling through this time. My heart goes out to them, and so much compassion, because, I felt it in a very small sliver of that. And it is, it can derail you. But fortunately, within me, I have the ability to go, stop thinking that way. put that smile on your face. You are going to go tackle this day. You are going to find all the positives and you are going to focus on those positives, because it is easy for our mind to get sucked into what's on the news and the negativity and trying to mitigate, 15 cancellations in a day. Like it's brutal and it can be a grind. But if your mind goes there, it's going to affect you physically. It will take over, but I choose to change my way of thinking. And that is an action that you have to be cognizant of and forcefully do. And so to me, I'm like, there's so much positives that I see as a goal, and I'm seeing that bright light come. And now it's just almost like I'm starting my business all over again. Back in 2009, whenever I started, I'm now growing my business, but I have such a good foundation of business that's gonna be there and it's gonna come back. But right now, I have an opportunity to bring on more clients, new clients, and I'm looking at it like I'm starting my business all over again. So that's yeah.
That's fantastic. When you think about it, the energy you put towards negative emotions, it's the same energy you can put towards positive emotions, right? Like it costs the projection of a negative outcome costs the same amount of energy as a projection of a positive outcome. It's just so much easier, I think, for so many people to fall into that negative energy. You said two things that really struck a chord with me as you answered that question was you put a smile on your face. That physical activity of trying to trigger your mind to do something different. And you would self-talk. You would talk to yourself through and say, I'm going back out there. I'm going to be positive. That to me is the takeaway. If I take away nothing from this call, which I'm taking away plenty, but that idea of physically doing something. I personally, if I get frustrated or I'm having a bad day, I just go for a walk. I put in a podcast that's going to put my head in a different spot. That physical activity is amazing how you come back to the desk when you force yourself to smile. And funny, I actually have two reminders on my Apple reminders thing. Smile. 1 o'clock, one at 9 o'clock in the morning, and one at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I see it pop up. I physically go. It's as cheesy as anything, but that physical effort to smile is something you just said yourself. You force yourself to smile and you force yourself to think positive. I think that's a huge way to kind of address some of the negative thoughts that could creep in.
Yeah. Another thing too that I just have loved so much, I bought a trainer that hooks up to my cycling bike, and hopping on that, even if it's 10 minutes, if I'm like, oh, I'm kind of, just need to step away from the desk. It's been a hard grind. I'm going to hop on my bike, 10 minutes. I feel so much better mentally, physically. It is amazing what a tiny smidge of activity can do.
I think people discount that, Trish. People think working out's got to be an hour and a half commitment or whatever. Sometimes it's that 10-minute burst of energy or distraction that completely brings you back refreshed to whatever you're trying to accomplish. I'm a big believer in that. Those small incremental wins I think you can get throughout the day that's huge. That's a great example. What do you do, Trish, to stay on top of things, to continue to learn, to continue to stay fresh? Do you have podcasts you listen to, books that you have? Are you, I don't know, what is your routine to kind of keep your brain engaged and continue to learn, whether that be personally or professionally? Give us some tips as to what you do.
Yeah, I've started reading again. I haven't read for years. So I'm reading a book, The One Thing. So focusing in on one thing, that the most important thing. But I think ConferenceDirect is amazing. Like for providing information, keeping their finger on the pulse, keeping us educated in terms of what's happening in our industry in order to, be able to take these steps forward and navigate these waters. So I really appreciate everything ConferenceDirect does to equip us to be so successful. But I also appreciate the partners. They're doing a lot to showcase kind of what's happening within their worlds and how they're being impacted and what their, future steps are, because this is a partnership. We have to work together to bring our industry back online, to get business back going. So I think collectively, as an industry, we're doing really well to educate where we need to. And there is so much information. I just pick and choose kind of what is really specific to my clients and will benefit them ultimately at the end of the day.
That's amazing. So Trish, we also share another passion. I think with all of our ways that we can make money. I know you also have invested in some real estate. You have, if I'm not mistaken, one, maybe two Airbnbs. I love that whole side aspect. It's kind of an extension of hospitality too with the Airbnbs. It's something that I've invested in some real estate ventures and looking into that myself. Talk to me a little bit about some side incomes, which I think another lesson of the pandemic has been all your eggs in one basket might not be the smartest strategy, and to be able to be flexible in an entrepreneurial model to make money in other ways. What are your thoughts on that? And tell me about some of your experience in that area as well.
Yeah, no, I am so appreciative that, my parents kind of taught me this passive income years ago. And so, yeah, I have a few Airbnbs, and, for the last several years, I've just, ConferenceDirect has been so great and so successful that was passive income. And so I'm using my money to make me money. And so I thought this is great. But when this whole thing happened and our ConferenceDirect income, went out the door, it's been a salary. It's been income that I am so appreciative that I have there. So I really appreciate the diversification on where you spend your time. But anyways, the Airbnb, I approach that as just like I do with my ConferenceDirect and my clients. What I've created there and how I manage it is no different than me looking after my clients and within ConferenceDirect. So I want to make sure I have the top, cleaners, the best experience, because the reviews are what create that business and positive experience and more bookings. And so it has been a huge success, and I encourage anyone to consider that. I haven't, knock on wood, haven't had any bad experiences yet with Airbnb. So I'm looking to bring on some more. But in some cases, you can use the bank's money to make you money. Why not do that? So I'm really happy I had that to fall back on through this time.
Amazing. It sounds like you're customer focused in every aspect of your life, Trish. Providing good experiences, whether it be for your ConferenceDirect clients or for your Airbnb clients, that's a pretty noble thing, I think, to aspire to for anyone who's doing business. I don't care what business you do. If you can keep your clients happy and those folks you're doing business with happy, it's an amazing example, and I think you're a shining example of that. Tell me, speaking of keeping clients happy, share with me a compliment that you're particularly proud of, something that a client shared with you, maybe a hotel partner shared with you in a story form. Tell me a time where you really felt proud of a job you had done.
Wow. I can think of a few experiences. Actually, most recently, I had a colleague say that I was one of her favorite people, but just that I was such a huge inspiration to her, and that she really appreciated being on my team. Like, we have these regional teams, but that she just had expressed appreciation for helping her through this difficult time. So that meant a lot. I would say, an experience I would love to highlight is years ago, I think it was in 2016. It was a compliment without giving it to me in person, was the Four Seasons. So we have top producer trips with ConferenceDirect. And so Four Seasons does a top 10 producer. And this year, I think it was in 16, I was the top producer, and you can bring a guest. And so I invited my mom, and then my dad's like, oh, what about me? I would love to go. And so I phoned Four Seasons and said, hey, can my dad come stay in the room? He'll just do his thing. He doesn't have to participate in this activity with us. For the duration, he'll just kind of go float in the pool. And they're like, absolutely, bring him along. Leading up to this trip, I was actually really sick. I was in a lot of pain. I was trying to figure out what was wrong. And so, long story short, I was phone Four Seasons, said, I'm going to try and come, but I'm not sure I can actually make it. But if my parents come, I'll pay for them. I just want them to go on the trip. They'll have nothing to do with the actual incentive portion of it. And they're like, keep us posted, but your parents absolutely come. So I am in the car driving to the airport, and I have my bag packed. My parents jump out of the car. I do. And I just start bawling. I'm in so much pain. I cannot go. This is to Mexico. I can't hop on that plane. I said, you guys go. It's all going to be, looked after. You guys can just do your thing. The room, I'll sort it out with the hotel. And I came home. I ended up going to the hospital, had surgery. I was totally fine. My Four Seasons met my parents at the door and said, you are absolutely participating in this entire incentive experience with us. And they took them on the boat. They were part of the dinners, the breakfast, the entire thing. And I literally could cry thinking about this. And this is how many years later? That was the biggest compliment and thank you to me in all the years of business, that they would go and do that for my family. They showed me they are not just about lip service or, yeah, we will, provide this amazing experience for your guests when they show up at the hotel. They actually saw that through to fruition beyond measure. So that was one of the biggest compliments I could ever have accepted in my business career. Yeah.
I actually have some my tear ducts are kicking in now, Trish. That was such a beautiful story. I think, especially, look, you take care of me is one thing. You take care of my family, it's a whole nother thing. If someone can show that love and extend it beyond you to people that you love and care about, it's even more of a compliment. That's huge. Trish, what else? What else do you want to share with me, with us, with anyone watching this? I've enjoyed our time thoroughly. I don't want to keep you too long. What are the things you want, words of wisdom you want to share, or just things from the heart?
I would just say, I'm trying to figure out who would actually listen to me on this Coffee with Colleagues, but if
you're being modest. There's plenty of people that are going to be tuning in. I know that for sure.
If you are a partner, I want to thank you for all of your support through this difficult time. We're all trying to navigate it. It means the world to us, and we are here as partners. If you are considering ConferenceDirect to join, stop considering it and just do it. You can always go back and find a job doing something else. But if I could do it, having no client I had ever could call and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now, start working with me, and start from scratch, you too can do this and you will have no regrets. It is you get to build your own career. Like, it is amazing. You have the flexibility and it's all for you. It's all for your family. And so to me, I can't imagine, I will never leave ConferenceDirect. Love them to bits, love what I do. So I highly encourage you to make that leap now and don't hesitate to do that. And to my colleagues, Jeremy, I appreciate you so much. And I wanted to thank you because this is a lot of your time you invest an hour of your time with colleagues. For what purpose? Like, I love talking with you. I love our time together, but you are doing this to help people and to, encourage people and give them such a positive perspective or different little tidbits that they can take away to enhance their life. So thank you for doing this. I saw I think it was your last one with Doug Barman, and I was like, he's so amazing. And I thought, we'll see if an hour. Wow, that's a huge commitment. I hung on every word you guys had. So I thank you so much. And I'm a huge fan. So thank you for having me.
Trish, you are so kind. I do this because of what you're sharing right now. I know your story is going to impact so many people. It's a platform that I have the easy job of just allowing you to speak. The folks I try and bring on here to share from their heart, I know it impacts people. Just like your colleague had reached out to you up in Canada and said, I want to thank you personally for getting me through some difficult times. I have every confidence that conversations like this will do the same. And I can't thank you enough for wanting to participate in this. So your heart is as big as Canada. You are just an amazing person through and through. I admire your business skills, your acumen, your ability to really be as professional as you possibly can be, but with such an amazing heart. You lead with heart. And I think that's something that is a lesson for all of us. I love your quiet, unshakable confidence that you have and you exude in everything you do. So it's a pleasure for me to have you on here, Trish. I know so many people are going to be listening to this and are going to take so many takeaways away. This might actually be round one. I'm locking you in for another Coffee with Colleagues conversation already. You don't know this yet, but I'm locking you in. We're going to have this conversation again because I'm sure there's going to be follow-up questions that will come from this. But really, from my heart, thank you, Trish, so much. I know you're busy. You've got plenty of stuff to do, but you taking the time to share means the world to me. And I know those folks listening as well will get some stuff out of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Big hugs to Tati too for me.
We'll do the same with Justin. And for that matter, guys, take care of your family, your friends. Thank you for joining us with this call. Write, subscribe, questions. You can contact me or Trish anytime you want with any kind of concerns or questions you have. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Until the next time, enjoy your coffee with colleagues. Trish, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.